Alright, I know what you're thinking. Your mic sounds horrible, dude. Well, it's not that I didn't get a new mic, or more specifically, an older one. I changed the settings because, I'm kind of subconscious about like background noise and all that shenanigans. What I did was basically turn down the hertz rate to 8,000, and that was labeled as, I kid you not, a telephone. Yeah, so my mic quality is as good as your home like telephone, like VTech or like the ones you see hanging on the walls with the numbers, like all that. Like a telephone. However, today I believe that I feel like I should be doing something different besides drawing and all that stuff. So there's this hobby I've had for quite some time now called conlanging. In other words, creating constructed languages. It's different from. Okay, let me explain. So, conlangs, as I just said, are constructed languages. It's basically the first syllable of the word constructed, con, and language, lang, together to form conlang. What's different between conlangs and natural languages like Italian, Spanish, and all that is that um, conlangs either have a certain goal or they're intended to look a certain way. They have a goal, and it's not like a natural language because you don't make Italian in like 6 months. With Italian, it takes a lot of time to evolve and all that stuff. So yeah, I've gotten into conlanging around 2018, I would say. And okay, so here's how I discovered it. So I was I was on I was at school actually, and I saw this video for like it was like a review for conlangs, and I'm like, oh wow, that looks pretty cool. And so I clicked on it, and I was like, oh, I like this a lot. This is a good series. And then I watched a couple more episodes, and then I had to go home. And from there, it was actually the last day of school, 2018. And so I went home and finished all the episodes that were out at the time. And I was just like, oh wow, this is pretty interesting. And the year, but like, okay, so this is seventh grade. That year was my first year of Spanish. So that could be a reason why I was just fascinated by this because, you know, at first to me, people would only speak like natural languages like Italian or Russian and all that because, well, a lot of people already speak it. But that theory it can already be disclosed because Esperanto, um, an quote unquote international auxiliary language, has millions of speakers and even some native speakers too. I believe there's around like 500 native speakers. What that means is that parents raised their children and grew up to the point where they could speak the language too at their home and at work. It's made them, it's like their entire life. But I don't understand why would you do that? Sure, you're probably serving the purpose for what Esperanto is trying to achieve, but really, like, I would teach my child probably one calling. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie here. Probably one of my callings, or and at least at the very minimum, one natural language, like English, which is what I'm native in. Probably Spanish, Italian, or Japanese, because I'm studying those. And yeah. Let's see who's on the stream right now. I only have one concurrent viewer. Thanks for watching, by the way. Alright. Now, I made a couple conlings before, and the one that I'm currently working on the most is this language called Ko, just K-O. I'll show you. So, I have a spreadsheet. I also have a document, but all that stuff is being transferred into this spreadsheet. This language is basically a personal language that I created around January this year. And the goal of it is just like to combine everything that I found interesting in natural languages slash conlang slash projects that I've participated in. Now let me show you a couple things. Alright, so we have 4 sections so far. Summary, verbs, particles, and transitions. Summary is basically just like grammar and all that stuff, but we'll get to that later. Actually, no. I want to show this. So, alright. So here's the pronouns right here. These are pronouns. Let me just zoom in so y'all could see. Alright. I should probably turn on my mic for this. Okay. Just give me 1 second, alright? Alright. I think I sound a little better now. If not, then whatever. So here are the pronouns. Vous is basically, alright, so at the time I got interested in this natural language called Ainu, which is an indigenous language that's in Hokkaido in Japan. And I don't know, I just felt very bad because, like, you know, I believe that they were before the Japanese language arrived. And I don't know, it was just so interesting to me thinking that, because I always thought in Japan it was only one language that dominated the area. But there was a second language, and it was Ainu. And it had so many interesting features. I never thoroughly studied it, but kind of like a brief overview, which is why I know some of the verbs. Or, not the verbs. Actually, I do know some verbs, but I meant to say pronouns. So, singular, so like words like I, me, my, you, your, and all that is pronouns. So, vous comes from like the prefix que, which indicates the first person singular. A is just straight from Ainu. Ro and re, I just made that up myself. I don't know what I was doing. And in, okay, I just noticed that these two are the same, but I get. Oh yeah, I was studying this other conlang called Sona. It was made back in 1935, and I studied it back all the way in July 2020. July 2020 was not a good month for me. At least at the very end, it wasn't. Not at all. But at the time, there was this one word called N, and it was used as the definite article, which is basically like the and all that. And it was used when you wanted to specify an object or the thing that it was the only thing in a certain context. And so I just used N and turned it into in. Now the plural pronouns. So V, okay. You're maybe asking, why do I have three first person plural pronouns? Well, they all work differently. So there's this thing called inclusivity, and English doesn't do this, but other languages do. So when we use we, it either means I plus you, I plus him or her, or I plus you plus her. So V distinguishes all three of those. V is I and you. Va is I and him slash her. And voi is I and you and him slash her. It doesn't distinguish number. It just distinguishes the different persons that are being mentioned. And it's basically y'all. Rong and rang is they. So rong is used when like a certain group is fully masculine, like a group of boys, and reng is for the same reason but for girls or feminine. Ing is basically has two uses. It can be either used to indicate a group of like inanimate objects, like it's also they in English, but like those toys, they're pretty old. You know that they is indicating an inanimate object, and it is also used to indicate when there's a mix of both masculine and femininity in a group. Like if it's a group of boys and girls, then you would use ing. Now, we can get into the tenses. I know I'm skipping a couple things, but we could talk about that later. Alright. So, we have, I gotta count, 13. Yeah, that's right, 13 different conjugations. That's pretty wild. Let me explain why. So, there was this project that I discovered called Isleja Discatzerva or something. And it started around September of 2020. There was a post on Reddit, and I was like, ooh, this could be pretty interesting. And so I was given the invite, and I joined, and then there was like so there was 13 collaborators, and we held meetings at random days where we would discuss, like, what should we add to this language? Like, should we add polypersonal agreement, or what conjugations can we do for certain verbs and all that? Honestly, I kind of regret it. Not because I joined, but because I honestly didn't participate as much as some other people did. Like, I would say the best I did was just work on phonotactics and what else? Oh yeah, make a script, which I never even finished. Someone else made a script for it before I did. And also we have two. Okay, never mind. We just had. Right now we had 2 concurrent viewers, but now we just have 1. So yeah. So let me explain what all these tenses are. So we have the present, which is like now. Like, let me give you some examples. I do, you make, he plays, or something like that. That's present. Should I just go down the list? Alright, yeah, we could do that. Conditional is like, I would do something, or you would be able to, like all that. So, depending on the end of the pronoun, depending on the end of the verb, you basically put these suffixes at the end. As you see here, I have a couple examples. So let's zoom in. I'm going to hide this for now. Alright, that's a lot better. Alright. Perfect. So, if a verb root ends in A, then it has its own conjugations. If it ends in E or E, then they have their own, but the only similarities that they have is the epic / uncertain past, and I'll explain what that is later. And O and U, they have their own things. So, as I said before, the conditionals is like the word would in English, kind of like I would, you would be able to, like all that. Now the uncertain / distant future is used whenever you're talking about an event that might occur in like a few years or a century or in a billion years, or whether you don't know whether something's going to happen in the future. So I guess you could say like the morpheme that's usually associated with this is ts. So you have tse, tsi, or that should be tsi and tse, tsa, tso, and tsu. For the conditional, that's sh. So shi, she, sha, sho, shu. Oh wait, okay. I almost skipped over this one. The certain slash near future. That's basically the one like English, like I will do something or I'm going to do something, like all that. This one's different because instead of having an associated like consonant, it uses the ending N nasal to indicate the near future, which I like. Now, inceptual. Which one is this? I have a few examples. Okay. Inceptual is like about to, like right about to occur. Like, as you saw in an example, Gifi, she is about to do. I mean, it's not specifically like she, but you know. Yeah. And the morpheme associated with that is the letter F. So, fi, fe, fa, fo, fu. Like all that. Alright. The potential is, let's see. Oh, like, indicating a possibility that something might happen. You see what I did there? So, think of it as English's might or may. Like, it may happen in the future, or it might occur, like all that. And associated morpheme with that is the letter K, so ki, ke, ka, ko, ku. It's as simple as that. We already went through the present. The habitual. It was originally going to be just a suffix, like one entire suffix. Or actually two. One of them was going to be used for nouns, the other for adjectives. But that would have been ma and mol, but I changed that. So the habitual is like the combination or the conjunction used to. Example, I used to work at this place, but I don't anymore. Basically saying that an event occurred in the past that no longer happens in the present. And the associated morpheme with that is the letter M, so mi, me, ma, mo, mu. The perfect slash terminative, I believe, is just the perfect marker in English, like have slash has. I have done this, she has done this. Let's check. Yeah, that's what it is. Marks the perfect tense. And that associated morpheme is the letter D, so di, de, da, do, do. Now, going back to the near future, you see how we use the nasal here? Like just the ending N nasal? I thought using the velar nasal ending for the past was a great idea. And I think it was. And I'm pretty proud of that. We'll get to the examples later. Now the epic slash uncertain past. This is the one I talked about with that one irregularity. The reason why it's not ni and nye and only nye is because, I don't know, it's just pretty indistinguishable. It kind of sounds like ni, just N-I. Ni? That would be N-Y-I, and like, to me it's just the same. And as you can tell, the associated morpheme is the letter N. So, Nye, nya, nyo, nyo. And the negative is basically turns a statement into something not true. So like, I am not gay, or she will not be able to do this. That's the associated consonant vowel pair is uru, so you would have iru, eru, aru, oru, and uru. Now we could go over the examples. So the root verb here is isi, which means to think. Sang, I got rid of that verb actually. It used to mean to say, but I'm thinking of changing its meaning. And goko means to be at a certain location. So let's go over each tense once at a time. Actually, we don't need to do that. We already have the examples right here. So the verb ki means to do or to perform an action. And we'll just go down the list. Ki. X does, or I'm going to refer to this as X. Kimi. X used to do. Kidi. X has done. Ging. X did. Gibi. X had done. Ginye. X did. Also, I forgot to mention, it's also used for skepticality, whether you don't know something occurred. Giru. X doesn't. Or X does not. Giki. X may do. Gifi. X is about to do. Gin. X will do. Gitzi. A while from now, X will do. Gishi. X would do. Yeah. Alright, now we can go over some of the things that I skipped earlier. Oh, okay. Alright. So, the first thing you see here is obviation. So we're going to get a little technical here. So, obviation. Some languages, but not English. Okay, so actually, let me just rephrase that differently. English has a problem. When you're talking about the third person, okay, so take the sentence that I've provided. I spoke to Cersei, and she said she was ready. But the thing is, when you're using she, you don't know, like the second she right here, she was ready. You don't know if Cersei is referring to herself or a different person that goes under she. So, in order to distinguish that, Ko has a system. As I've written right here, if Cersei is referring to herself, then the third singular feminine pronoun is omitted. So, literally, that would be... Actually, that should be different, but it would literally be, I spoke to Cersei and said was ready. Now, if Cersei was referring to a different person, then the third singular pronoun is required. So, there's many ways that Cersei could use this in a sentence. There's three, but I'll explain them. I spoke to Cersei and said she was ready. What this means is that Cersei said that another person was ready. In the second, I spoke to Cersei and she said was ready means that a different person was talking about Cersei being ready. And the third one, I spoke to Cersei and she said she was ready. I actually don't know why I included that one, but I believe it's supposed to be a combination of the first and second sentence. Oh, okay. So, I spoke to Cersei and she said she was ready is basically indicating that the person spoke to Cersei, and something unrelated to that was that someone else said that someone else was ready. Oh! Ooh, I just thought of something. What if you were talking to Cersei and she told you that someone else said that someone else was ready? Wouldn't we need another pronoun for that? I don't think so. I don't think it's really that important. Now, long distance. I have another sentence, so let's read it. Ko distinguishes long distance relationships between subjects. The example: Yamada ended up marrying a woman who hated him. So let's read these examples. If the person speaking is relating to the point of view of Yamada, the third person singular pronoun is used. Yamada, he ended up marrying a woman who hated him. Also, I don't think that's what it's supposed to do. I think I got that wrong. I feel like that should be if the person wants to associate with Yamada, then that's when it's used. Vice versa, it is omitted. Yamada ended up marrying a woman who hated him. Now this seems like a really outlandish thing, but Japanese actually does this. There's this word called jibun, and I think that's what it does. It replaces kare with jibun. Yeah. It's a pretty unused thing. But this one I've not added. Person agreement. This is in English. Like he does, she does, it does, and that's it. And politeness. Ko avoids using separate pronouns to determine politeness. Instead, politeness is determined by the inclusion or exclusion of a pronoun. Politeness can also be used referring to titles and or kinship terms. Without politeness, would like anything else? That's no politeness. With politeness are the following examples. Would you like anything else? Would King like anything else? Would mother/father like anything else? I already went through the tenses. Now, oh yeah, we need to talk about phonology. So, at the beginning of the project, at the beginning of working on Cole, I thought maybe I should indicate stress somehow. And so I used something like what Spanish does, like the accents at the top of a vowel. But I've decided to get rid of that because that's just useless. I don't really see a point in it, besides just simply marking tense. I forgot to remove that in this part. But let's just continue. So what aspect is basically indicates how a certain action flows through time. It's pretty complicated as a beginner or someone that doesn't know much about grammar, but that's what it does. The continuous / continuative aspect does this. It marks that an action is currently in progress as someone is saying it. Think of in the process of. Here is used to mark this, combined with mo or ma, which is, as I said before, the habitual tense. You get something called the past habitual continuous aspect. This is used to be in the process of. That's 6 words that can be made into just one prefix. Suffix. Mojia. Or at least that's what it was supposed to be. Now it could be mejia, mijia, mojia, magia, mujia. The perfect aspect. This I should probably get rid of, because we already have a tense for that. The perfective. Then you should also get rid of this, because it's probably the terminative. But actually, I think the terminative is the imperfect. I'm just wrapping my brain around some stuff. Okay. Now these two are still in the works. The gnomic indicates that an event is true or a general fact of knowledge, or that the speaker is confident in an event occurring or that has occurred. This is marked with phi. Now the iterative, I don't know why I called it this positive. Anyways, the iterative aspect marks an event occurring throughout multiple timelines. Think of it did, does, and will do this. Or it happened yesterday and a few days ago. Marked with Yazoi. That should be I. I changed the spelling of some of the consonants and vowels and diphthongs. At first, diphthongs that paired with I, they ended in Y. But I have since changed that, because it's just too much to wrap my brain around. Alright, modality and mood. Sorry, I'm getting a little tired here. With all my talking. I appreciate some of you that are still here. And if you have any questions, please go ahead, ask them. But, alright. Visual modality. Oh, first I need to explain what mood is. Think of it as like an emotion, except you put it into linguistics. Mood is like how a person feels, or it's pretty hard to describe, but they give it as like an emotion you feel. So visual modality. This modality is a way to the speaker's perspective to what they're saying. It should be by mentioning the use of the sense of sight. This is marked with yao, which is now ya and o. Yao. I'll give you a sentence. I'll give you an example. Ki yao tia sujorong. And I believe that translates to yesterday he or they work. Which, oh yeah. Because the word dia means yesterday, and yesterday is a time word, the time word indicates the tense already. So a verb doesn't need to be conjugated because the time word already does that for you. I mean, the time word's not conjugated itself, but it indicates the tense. If you know what I'm getting at here. So basically, they worked yesterday. Yao is like, okay, these, I completely forgot, they're called evidentialities. If you want to prove something happened, or you want to indicate whether something happened, you can prove it by explaining that you use certain senses of your body. Yao, for example, indicates that you know that something happened because you saw it happen. They were working because I saw it. Auditory modality is like visual modality, but it involves hearing. So if you take the same sentence, ki yao tia ki yao surorong, this is marked with ye, which is the same. Ki, I keep saying ki tia surorong, but actually I think it is. I don't even know what I'm doing at this point. I'm just trying to explain as best as I could. Ki ye tia surorong. It could translate to the same thing in English. They worked yesterday. But again, you're proving this because you heard them work. You heard the people working. Now, non-sensory, non-auditory evidentiality is basically the same, but it doesn't involve sight nor hearing. It can be indicated like touch, or a superstition, or taste, or what else? Or a smell, and all that. And that's indicated with nya, or at least that's what it used to be. It's just nya. Now you're thinking, you're gonna get that confused with the nya from the epic uncertain past ending of A. But it's not just conjugated, it's not just like added onto the verb like that. So so I'm making this rule up right now. If you want, you could make this, instead of a suffix, a prefix. So instead of kinya, you can do, actually no. Now here's why I just object to that. Ki over here, it ends in I. And I, and root verbs that end in I, fall under this category. So, as you see here, it's actually nye, not nya. So,
if it was under this category, then yeah, I would have to use it as a prefix. But in this case, no, because again, they don't fall under the a category. So it would be perfectly okay to say quiñeña or quiñañe. I believe quiñeña works better. So yeah. Permissive modality. Obligative modality, and then commissive modality. So, permissive modality, these three, they all have something in common. Permissive is like you're giving someone permission to do something, or someone is given permission to do something. Example, Zoe may or Zoe can go now. That is marked with po. The obligative is kind of like a demanding or an obligation. Think of it as must or has in English. Zoe has to go now, or Zoe must go now. This is marked with bu. Now, similar conditions apply, similar to nya. I actually have a sentence for this. We'll go to translations. Nyandru bovu we. So, let me break this sentence down. Yan, which means to fight, is conjugated with the negator ru and bu. Now, if it was, let's say, it wasn't a command, I think that would be, hold on, I believe that would be Yanba. So, actually wait, I think I have a verb for this already. Giru, to annoy or to harass. As you see here, it says giru bu, and we know that bu indicates the obligative modality. How are you going to fix this? Well, you can either, again, use it as a prefix. So, bugiru must annoy or has to annoy. Bugiru bu, will that really work? I don't think so. Or, I mean, if you want, you could just distinguish it with context. Oh, we'll get to particles later. Alright. Oh, shoot. I clicked on that by accident. Alright. So, these three, implicative, counterfactual, and predicative, I believe. They're like if in English. If then, or basically conditional statements. So, the implicative and counterfactual are kind of like the same. However, there's like one difference. Let me read this. This modality is a way to refer to if X is true, then Y will also hold true, and X will occur if Y occurs. You can mark this in two different ways with sha. Distinguishing the two is completely optional. But if you would like to mark implicative modality, then you mark shot between x and y. That is basically if x occurs, then y occurs. If you would like to mark the counterfactual modality, wait, no. Okay, I got this wrong. Counterfactual is if, okay, take the sentence, if I won the money, if I won a lottery or something, I would spend all the money. If I won the lottery, I would spend all the money. So, basically the conditional statement, if, then would. Like, I'm not too sure how to describe it, but kind of like indicates the conditional statement if it were undergoing like a possibility or something. That's what I would describe it as, but don't quote me. Predicative is what the first one is supposed to be. If x is true, then y will also hold true. But this is, if you want to mark it, then basically do the same thing with implicative, but you add ne right after it. That's basically exhaustive and. And the purposive modality marks purpose. Think of since, in order to, or because. This is marked with goal. Woo! Alright. I need a lot of water, so we will return in just a second.
You have chosen to proceed with the maintenance checklist. Remember, use your company issued taser to return the animatronic to a neutral state if you feel that it's becoming unstable or aggressive. You can only use it 3 times before it begins to damage the animatronic and decrease its value. Begin audio prompt in 3, 2, 1. Document results. You have chosen to proceed with the maintenance checklist. Remember, use your company issued taser to return the animatronic to a neutral state if you feel that it's becoming unstable or aggressive. You can only use it 3 times before it begins to damage the animatronic and decrease its value. Begin audio prompt in 3, 2, 1.
Wow, 3 concurrent viewers. Thanks, guys. I appreciate your stay here. My throat was hurting after that long conversation. And now, I munch on some vegetables. Yeah. Just give me a second to finish this vegetable. Alright. Now, we're going to be switching topics. You'll understand what I'm doing later. Alright. So, this is a PDF of the language Sona. Now, I mentioned this before. I took a good study of this language back in July of 2020 because, again, I saw a video on it. It was a review. And it discussed how under freaking rated this language was. Like, it had no community. It had no newspapers or just like none of that. It was, at first glance, it was like horrible to see such a language treated like that. And so I believe that, well, I think I could give this this language a bit of time in my life, just to, give it some support. However, I mean, it's a great language, I'll give you that. But just the documentation, I believe, from the author is not so good. And also the author has had a pretty no past. He's been accused of writing an erotica, basically like a sexual fantasy novel or something. It was really bad. In fact, so bad that when Seawright left his apartment or something, I believe, the next owner of that apartment was so terrified of the erotica he wrote that he burned it in a kiln. Only one of his erotica remains today. And I believe it's called The Surface, or Paidikion. But yeah, I found this in the... But I discovered the language before I figured out what the author did, aka Seawright. Kenneth Seawright was his name. Many people won't agree with me with this, but I want to treat Sona as a separate entity from Seawright. Now you might be thinking, oh, that seems pretty difficult to do, or that seems like, oh, you can't do that. You can't just discredit someone for making a language. But I mean, it's definitely possible. With silencing and all that. But I don't have the willpower to do such a thing like that. I just want to treat it as something different from Sona. Think of it as like you're an owner of a pet. The pet is not you, but you cared for it. You decided what its life is going to be. You fed it, you loved it, and you did certain things with it, like take it out for a walk or take it to doggy school or something like that. I feel like I imagine Sona as like a hamster, an overfed hamster, because this language with poor documentation, I believe it does a good job, but there's just a lot of features it has. Like, a lot of unnecessary features. Like, let me show you what I'm talking about here. It has a reasonable amount of words, like 375 words, 360 being particles. Radicals, and 15 being particles. I'll get to that. I'll get to what that means later. So, if we go down to here it is. Okay, the relative pronoun. Let's zoom in. Alright, so this little text here, this part right here it indicates like, okay, let me give you an example. Racci pato un pomo. The man who ate that apple. We also have okay, so this part right here. As a prefix, this radical expresses some or so. Example, chira, some man, chiji, someone, china, something, and so on. Honestly, I don't get it. Like, why would you need two different ones? Like, why would you need chiji, or the other way around, when you could just use the same thing? Okay. Here's why I think this. Take the sentence, I like the person who you like. I think I have it. Okay. Actually, I don't think what I was about to open should be opened, because there's some personal information in there. So if I could just get my other PC real quick. Alright, I'm just opening the document on a different computer, just to let you know. Oh wait, this is the wrong document. Okay. So take the sentence, I like who you like. Mi ju, chi ji, tu ju. At least that's what I think it should be. Now, let me say it again. I like who you like. I like someone you like. Aren't they basically the same? Now let me do it again. I rest where you rest. I rest somewhere you rest. Let me do it again. I go when you go. I go sometime you go. Again, I use what you use. I use something you use. Yeah. But yeah, that's just one out of many things that I found frustrating. It's like, again, an overfed hamster. I wanna be its owner somehow. I wanna make this language work. I wanna just, I know it's really, really difficult, but I just wanna find a way to get this guy's name off the language. I don't know how I would do that. It's really depressing. Because a language that I liked a lot has to have a reputation just because of its creator. It's honestly kind of heartbreaking. Yeah. I'm getting a little tired right now. Alright, back to this. So why do I like this language? Or why did I decide to dedicate a lot of time to this language? Well, you see, it looks very pleasing. What I mean by that is the phonotactics and the spelling. let me get to that. So there's 24 letters. It's basically English, but without Q and W. Okay, so there are many different types of syllables. There's V, which is vowel, CV, which is consonant vowel, VN, which is a nasal, and wait, no, there's two more. CVN, which is consonant vowel nasal, and a vowel consonant vowel. You might be asking, hey, that's not one syllable, that's two. And you're right. It's called a disyllable, but a majority of the radicals consist of a disyllable instead of just one syllable. Usually, actually, in every circumstance, it's either a, e, or u, the first vowel in that disyllable. So, example, ka, aka, ika, uka. They're all they are all radicals. Kan is also radical, and ka is a radical. However, an is a particle. Probably just because it's the type of a syllable it is. There's also wa, we, we, wo, and ow. But yeah, me and another person named Chaba Sabo are planning to work on a revised version of Sona. However, there's just something about this language that makes me not want to do that. I feel like keeping it the same or finding some conventional way to work with it in the language just to make things a little less confusing is already good enough for me. But if we wanted to get C-Wright's name off of a language that we wanted people to speak, then the only option was to, again, make a revised version. Instead of Sona, we named our project Solana. We started it around at the beginning of April. We worked on it for a few days, and it's currently on hiatus. I have plans to DM my companion, I would like to call him from this point on, and see what we could do this weekend to work on the language. But personally, I wanted to stick with just, having as much similarities to the normal language as possible. But ridding, of course, the complicated / confusing parts. Yeah. Ugh, I'm really tired. I think I'm gonna end the stream. It was honestly really good having such a long talk with all of y'all here, even though there's only one watcher. Alright. Whoever's watching, thank you for watching the stream, and I hope you have a great day.